Today I'm going to show you how to make this lovely ladder shelf, and I've done a couple of examples here. One I've done in a cream with an oak top as a two-tone effect. I've used a lovely sort of sage green colour here. I think these would look lovely in a contemporary setting. And for this project I have used a wood called Obeche, that's O-B-E-C-H-E. It's a nice soft wood. A couple of thicknesses have been used and the strip wood as well. The cutting list will be coming up after this. Do have a look at my other video working with wood for ideas on other woods to use, and there's also some really handy tips on cutting wood in there as well. You'll need a craft knife. Swan Morton craft knife with a 10A blade is my favourite knife. Always put a new blade in at the start of a project or when it begins to catch or drag along the wood. That's for cutting the sheet wood. For cutting the strip wood you'll need a mitre block and a saw. I've used a tool called a scribe to create the shaped piece at the top of the shelf. But it's just basically a tool with a nice sharp pointed end. This is out of an old electrical kit. Obviously your ruler for measuring and using to cut with your knife. Keep a straight line. Nice sharp pencil. Keep it sharp for accurate marking. And then any sort of paint. This is a household emulsion, and I love these little sample pots. They're ideal for miniature work. For the two-tone I've just used a normal household varnish. My favourite wood glue is called Gorilla. Really strong glue which grips really quickly so you don't have to wait around too long. Cocktail sticks I use for applying glue and for removing excess glue from along joins. And in this project I've also used masking tape to hold the pieces together whilst the glue is drying. Piece of card just for dispensing the glue onto, just makes it easier. A couple of grades of sandpaper. I use a 120 for sanding the wood, and then a finer grade which I cut up into small pieces to make it easier to use, and that's a 500 grade there. And I think that's about everything you'll need. So the cutting list is coming up next, and then we'll get started. We're going to begin by rounding one end of each of the leg pieces. So place your sort of medium grade sandpaper on your worktop and then just sweep the leg towards you, bringing it into an upright position as you go. And just do that 2 or 3 times. As you can see there, it just starts to round off. And then turn the piece over and do it on the other side. And that gives you the basic shape, and then you can just take a small piece of a finer grade sandpaper and just tidy that up. So just sweep the paper over the top and on the other side. Just along those sides as well, give you a nice smooth curve there. So do that to all 4 pieces, and then the side that you rounded, or the sides that you rounded, then become the front and back of the leg. We're now going to mark up the back legs for the placement of the shelf supports, and the back legs are the shorter pair out of the 2, so make sure you're using the right pieces. So just place the ruler alongside the leg, and the first pencil mark is 7mm from that rounded end, and if you're working in inches that's 9/32 of an inch. And then move the ruler along, and the second pencil mark is 32mm from the end, and again in inches that's 1 1/4 inches. And then 63mm, another pencil mark there, and that's 2.5 inches. And then the final pencil mark is 95 millimeters, and that's 3 3/4 inches. And one there like that. And then just pop the ruler to one side and line up the two legs so that the bottom of each is level, and then just copy those pencil marks onto the second leg, like so. And then just place the legs side by side and take the 4 shelf supports and just lay them inside the 2 pieces. And then I've just got some glue here that I've dispensed onto a piece of card, and I'm going to apply it using a cocktail stick and just apply a small dab to the end of each shelf support, and then just lay that back in there. Do that with all 4 pieces. And then we're going to attach them so that they sit just above that pencil line. So start by attaching them to the left hand leg, or right hand leg if you're left handed and that works easier for you. All the way down like that, and just gently press those into place, and then attach the remaining leg again so that the pencil marks are just beneath the bottom of the shelf support. And press it all into place, just being very gentle. That piece can then be left to one side to dry. And then we're now going to round the end of each shelf side. So again, place the piece against the sandpaper on your worktop and just sweep it towards you, bring it into an upright position, and just do that 2 or 3 times, just until the wood begins to curve. And then again, just take your smaller piece of finer grade sandpaper and then you can just tidy that up. So just sweep it over the end and along the sides as well, just gives it a nice appearance. And do that to each of the shelf side pieces. So take 2 of your shelf sides and the corresponding shelf piece and apply glue along each short edge of the shelf piece. And then I've just got here a spare piece of 5x5 strip wood, and I'm going to use this to make sure that all pieces stay flush at the back edge. So place it along the back edge of the wood and then attach the side piece, and you can just press it against that strip at the back there, and that will ensure you've got a nice flat edge at the back. And do the same with the other piece, like so, and then just very carefully remove that, and you can then use it to press the side piece into place, and that will help the glue to take but also keep it upright. So it's sort of like using a mini jig. And just hold that there for a moment. Remove the excess glue from along the join, and then just carefully turn that round and press the other side into place. And do that with each of the shelf pieces. So you've got 4 shells with sides, and they again can then just be left to one side to dry. We're now going to prepare the top of the ladder shelf. So take the front and back pieces are the same size, so just take one of those pieces, which will become the front, and just cut a piece of paper or thin card to the same size, and we're going to make a template so that we can shape the piece. So fold the piece of paper in half, and then just draw a simple curved pattern on there. Try to keep it simple because then it's easier to actually create that shape in the wood. I'm going to do it like that, and then cut that out. And keep, with your pattern, just keep a small amount at the end that will be flat, and that will then cover the legs once we fix that into place. So just a few millimetres at the end should be flat. And just carefully cut that out. Open that out. And I'm going to just copy that now onto the piece of wood. Like that. And then take the scribe, and using it like a pencil, just go over that pencil line, and you're just lightly scoring the shape into the wood. And just go over lightly to begin with, and then just go over again, and this time just go deeper into the wood so that you're actually scoring a groove into the wood. And then take your craft knife, and I can't stress enough how careful to be here. And now we're going to go over that line with the knife, not with the intent straight away of cutting it out, but just making that score slightly deeper. And you can come off the bottom of the wood, just be extremely careful of your fingers, just always be aware of where they are. And this technique does take a little while, so you don't have to rush at it, just take your time. And it might be a good idea as well just to practice on a spare piece of wood, just to get the technique right. And I always say it, but once you know how to do this, it's a really useful thing to know. You can add mouldings to most pieces of furniture, just to add a really nice detail. So I'm going along, and as you can see, the pieces of wood are just beginning to flake away. And make sure you've cut through before you pull pieces away like that, otherwise the rest of the wood will split. And that can be very annoying, especially if you're nearly at the end. And I'm just holding that piece there so that it doesn't break off. as I'm working on the curve beside it, like that, and then I can get in there easily with my blade. And keep turning the wood as I'm doing, so that you're always at the best angle. Get rid of those pieces. And then just take, again, your fine grade sandpaper, and you can either wrap it around the end of a paintbrush or just sort of fold it so that it creates a curve, and then just work that into each of the curves. You can see I'm sort of coming forward and then bringing the paper over, and that just gives a nice edge at the front. And you can also just gently round off the corner where you've got your flat edge there. Sweep it over the central piece. And just keep going until you've got a nice smooth edge along the bottom there. But don't go so harsh as to sort of change the pattern. So you're just taking off the rough edges and not reshaping the piece of wood. Take the top piece and just apply glue along each of the short edges. Like so, and then attach a side piece to each edge. And just hold it into place for a few seconds. And the remaining piece. And you're working on pieces like this that are quite fragile. Rather than picking that up, just slide it along your work surface, and that can be left to one side to dry. And have a piece here that's fully dried. And apply glue along the back edge. Just pop it back down on your worktop, and then just attach that back piece. So that each of those side pieces are flush. Just press that gently into place. You can bring your sides in so that they're flush with the sides of the back piece. I'm just sort of creating a box here. And then you can lay that down and apply glue along these front edges. And then attach that front piece. And again, so that the sides and the top are flush. And then just pop that onto its side. And you can use your spare piece of strip wood here as well, just to press that all together. And then again, that piece can be left to one side to dry. So now take the ladder shelf top piece, and we're going to bevel one long edge and both short edges. So place the sandpaper, this is the coarser grained sandpaper, on your worktop, and hold the piece at a 45-degree angle and this time we're going to keep it at that angle rather than bringing it into an upright position. So hold on to your sandpaper, or you can just use masking tape to secure that into place, and just sweep the piece towards you, keeping it at that angle. And after every few sweeps, just check that it's creating the shape you want. You don't have to hold it too firmly against the sandpaper. And that's creating a nice bevel there. And then you can also just go that way along the sandpaper, just in the one direction, so that you don't round off the edges. And that will just smooth that edge off. And then same thing again, and just on each of the sides. And again, just keep checking to make sure that you've got a nice even bevel on both sides. And the other end. Keep going until you're happy with the shape, and then take the top piece and apply glue to get rid of the dust on that edge. And then so that the front is at the sort of beveled edge, you can then attach that to the top piece so you've got an even overhang on either side, and so that the back of both pieces is flush. You can actually lay it that way. And again, press that into place. Use the cocktail stick there to get rid of the excess along those edges. And just hold that there until the glue begins to take. And again, that can be left to dry. If you're going to go for the two-tone effect, so that you're going to sort of paint this piece and varnish the top piece, I would advise doing that separately and then attaching them after you've done that. And if you're going to varnish this piece, just cut some small pieces of masking tape and attach them to the beveled side, just to make like a little handle or a little tab that you can hold it with while you're varnishing. Just make that a little bit longer like that, and then you can just hold on to that while you're varnishing it, and varnish all of that side, and then obviously around these beveled edges, and just come over that edge a little bit, and then when you varnish, you've then got a little handle that you can prop that up on whilst the varnish dries. It does work, I promise you. Okay, so now all of the pieces are prepared. You can now paint or varnish or whatever you're going to do with them, and then we can construct the piece. And I just advise doing it this way because it is quite a fragile piece, and it's just easier to paint and sand the pieces when they're separate than when they're sort of constructed. So once all of your pieces are painted, just use a finer grade sandpaper to gently sand the paintwork, and then on the back of each shelf, so on the flat edge of each shelf piece, just work it along your heavier grade sandpaper just to remove any paint. Just go in the one direction like so, and do that on each of the pieces, and that will then just ensure that we get a flush fit against the ladder back. And we're going to work from top to bottom, so the top is where you have the longest piece of leg showing, and obviously the shelves go from small to large. So start with the small shelf and apply glue to that flat back edge. And then the shelf will sit directly onto the support, so it doesn't overlap onto the legs, and the bottom of the shelf will be flush with the bottom of the support. So you can see that edge in there is flush, and the sides are flush with the sides of the support. Just gently move that over and just press that into place. I'm just going to turn it around and remove the glue from the inside. And then the next size shelf. And just continue to work your way down. And then take the two remaining legs and just use one as a prop on that side to prop the shelf up, and just apply a small dot of glue at the edge of each shelf, just before the curve of the shelf, and put the spacer into place so that it's flush with the bottom of the bottom shelf, like so. Just turn that round a bit, and then take the leg so that the curve is in the same direction as the back leg, so the place that you curved is front and back, and line up the top of the leg so that the top is level with the top of the back leg, and then attach at the bottom so it's just in front of that spacer. And very carefully press it all down. And just hold that into place while you remove the excess glue from along the front of the shelves. And just slide out the spacer, and I've just cut some thin strips of masking tape. I'm just going to fix them over the end of each shelf just to hold the leg into place while the glue dries. Like that, and I'll just show you what I meant there about the top of the leg, so that that corner is flush and straight with the top of the back leg there. And then you can then turn the piece over and repeat what we've just done. And I'm just doing it upside down so you can see it better there. So the spacer is flush with the bottom of the bottom shelf. Make sure the rounded edge is on the right side. Line up the top with the back leg and then press into place. Let's get rid of that now. And again, I'll just cut some strips here to hold all the legs into place. And that can then be left to dry. So once you've allowed enough time for the glue to dry, remove the masking tape and then just lay the piece onto its side. And I just want to trim off the front leg so that it's in line with the back leg. So you're just taking off a tiny amount just so that the back and front leg are straight along that top edge. Take off a bit more there. And just use your craft knife and go straight down so that you get a nice straight edge, and then turn it over and do the other side. Like that. You've got a nice flat straight edge along the top there. And then apply glue just to the back of that leg, and then just put a little bit on the top of each leg. Like that. And here is my top piece, and I did mine in the two-tone effect. So I've just glued the top into place there, and that's now completely dry. And then you just want to slip that on top, like that, and so that this flat back piece is flat against those back legs. So just you're pushing it down and then into those back legs as well. And that will keep it straight. Just hold it into place as the glue begins to take. And there is the completed ladder shelf. So I hope you've enjoyed this project. I think it's a really nice piece of furniture. Would look lovely in a cottage kitchen or something like that, or maybe a bakery. And it's fairly easy to make as well. If you did enjoy making this, please subscribe to the channel. There's lots more to come. And thank you for watching.